watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
And joining me on the debate tonight, Vishnu Jain, lawyer for the petitioners, Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate, Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, member of parliament and national spokesperson of the BJP, Rahul Eashwar, activist, Vinod Bansal, national spokesperson of the VHP, Dr. T.A Rehmani, president of the MPCIR, Atiq Ur Rehman, an Islamic scholar, and Mohammed Sohail, a political analyst, supports the AIMIM. My first question goes to Mr. Sanjay Hegde. And Mr. Sanjay Hegde, I want to ask you, can Mr. Asaduddin Owaisi go ahead and say that he's disappointed because the lower courts were listening to only one side, yet the Supreme Court hasn't restrained them? The fact is the Supreme Court has blown holes into their defense of the 1991 Act, that it doesn't stop the survey, and secondly transferred the matter back to Varanasi without taking a position. Do you think that the basic defense today of the Muslim side has gone, Ori?
Well, firstly, Mr. Owaisi is entitled to say what he wants. He's a free citizen. Somebody else may say have another view. Today, what has happened is a technical thing. The Supreme Court says that, look, there is an interim order. We have substituted our own interim order. We also think that the matter should go to a judge who is more senior and more experienced, and they have transferred it. Now, even in the previous interim order, I think it is a bit of lazy thinking to say that the Supreme Court recognized that there was a Shivling. It says in the place stated, in a place where a Shivling is stated to have been found. There is no finding that there is a Shivling. There is no real finding today. The question, there is an observation in arguments. It's an oral observation which is not reflected in the order. The oral observation is that, yes, you cannot change the religious character of a place. That is what the Act prohibits. But an inquiry, it's an open question as to whether that too is barred. The Supreme Court is very careful, not only in this matter, but in all other matters. Whenever it is dealing with an interim order, it attempts not to give a finality by saying anything to the course of any litigation before the lower courts. So it has essentially said that, look, whatever is the status currently, let us restrict it. Let us keep that area where an object is said to be found.
So Sanjay Hegde, I quite understand what you are trying to say. The Supreme Court has given only an interim order. My question to you is very straightforward, and I want to ask you, the prayers were two. One, that the 1991 Act disallows the process that is on in Varanasi, which has not been upheld by the Supreme Court. And number two, there was a prayer to stay the activity of the survey and the opening of the videography and the pictures that had been submitted. The Supreme Court has not stayed that as well. Of course, this is not a final order. But don't you think both the basic prayers have been rejected, and therefore, at least the Muslim side, which was expecting a relief, hasn't got it?
Well, I can't help whether one side or the other has any expectations, by the by. Secondly, I do not appear on any side in the matter. I am only interpreting the proceedings as a man of law, as an interested man of law, watching from the sidelines. So today, what was hoped on one side was, as to use Mr. Owaisi's words, that the trouble would be nipped in the bud. That has clearly not happened. Now, if you want to get it into a victory for one side or defeat for another. I think that would be unfair. Long ago, a journalist once told me, just 1 minute, Navika, before you interrupt. A journalist once told me that they all classified Supreme Court stories into Jhatka, Fatka and Rahat. Only 3 words. So
what is it?
Jhatka,
what do you think
so
it is? Jhatka, Fatka, क्योंकि राहत तो मिली नहीं.
No, I don't get into hashtags. As a man of law, I can only interpret what is stated in the order, and currently I don't take any sides.
Okay.
So who got a Jhatka, who got a Fatka, there is the rest of your panel to go to.
All right. विष्णु जैन, आपको तो झटका नहीं लगा, आपको फटका भी नहीं लगा, तो ये जो राहत की बात थी, the people who were seeking rahat, they didn't get it. So how do you look at the court order and what the court says today?
See, Mr. Sanjay Hegde has very beautifully put it, and I think no one can match that standard. But I would just say that there were 3 orders which were under challenge before the Supreme Court. The first order was of 18/8, which has appointed the commissioner. The second order was of videography of the entire area. And the third order was that their application under Order 7, Rule 11 should be decided. Now, what they are missing here is this, that at page 12 of the impugned order, of the order of the High Court of 21st of April, the High Court has categorically directed that the application of 711 will be decided. So the same thing the Honorable Supreme Court has also reiterated. And we are also saying that, yes, let's decide 711. Let's get this dead and buried forever, that whether our suit is maintainable or not. The very important point, Navika, which you have mentioned is this, that Justice Chandrachud, because we are just discussing as a legal panel, as a panelist, Justice Chandrachud and the Honorable Supreme Court has made an observation that the religious character of the party in question has to be determined. And that is the point which we were trying to make. Now, all these questions will be decided before the Honorable District Judge. But what the other leaders and Mr. Owaisi and everyone is saying from the Muslim side, what they are arguing, that boss, you don't have the right to approach the court. What is the crux of Places of Worship Act? I must ask myself. The crux is that you cannot create these controversies. You cannot go to the court, and the doors of the courts are closed for me. Mr. Hegde is sitting here. We all know that the right to judicial remedy is also the basic structure of the Constitution. The right to approach the court is also, the right to judicial review is also a fundamental right, and that cannot be taken away. The argument by the Muslim side is that please take away that right. Don't raise these issues before the court of law, which I think is absolutely erroneous, and it is not good for any healthy democracy. We are ready to argue, we are ready to test our arguments in the courts of law. But you cannot say that, Mr. Jain, just shut your mouth. You can't raise these arguments in the court of law. That can never happen in a healthy democracy. And that is precisely what our argument is. And that's why Supreme Court has left it open to the district judge, Varanasi. We have no problem, Navika, whether the district judge decides it, whether the High Court decides it, which judge decides it. We have no problem. It is the Muslim side who is casting aspersions on the judge. Even in Ram Mandir case, we have seen it time and again. So I am to always saying, and my parties, my clients have always said, that let the matter be decided. We are not going to bench and we are not going to choose the forum, but there should be a remedy, there should be a forum where all these voices should be agitated. That's our precise point.
Absolutely. So let me ask Mr. Mohammed Sohail. Sohail Saab, Mr. Owaisi wanted this entire issue to be nipped in the bud. And for the last 3 days, he's been saying, oh, the judge where this is going, he's going to take a call that will suit us. He also went on to say that, just before the hearing today, yesterday, he made a statement saying that we know that the judge is going to stay everything. We are expecting that to happen. I want to ask you, थोड़ी expectations misplaced हो गई?
नाविका जी, कोई एक्सपेक्टेशन मिसप्लेस नहीं हुई है। देखिए, पूरी मुस्लिम कम्युनिटी आज परेशान है। एक, हमने बाबरी मस्जिद को खो दिया है। कोर्ट को और गवर्नमेंट को हमें एश्योरेंस देना होगा कि इस मस्जिद के साथ कोई छेड़खानी नहीं होगी। पहले जैसा बाबरी मस्जिद में पहले चबूतरा बना, फिर मूर्तियां रखे गए, काफी कोर्स ऑफ चला पूरा चीज को। देखिए अब हमारी ये मस्जिद को पहले एश्योरेंस दीजिए, ठीक है, जो कोर्स ऑफ कोर्ट है उसका चलने दीजिए। देखिए मेरा सवाल एक ही है कि पहले एडवोकेट कमिश्नर को चेंज किया गया, फिर जज को चेंज किया गया, उसके पीछे क्या वजह है? देखिए आप क्लियर, सुप्रीम कोर्ट को भी इसके पीछे का मंशा समझ में आ चुका है। दैट इज द रीजन द जज हैज बीन चेंज एंड द एडवोकेट कमीशन हैज बीन चेंज। तो मैं उम्मीद करता हूं कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट और सेशन कोर्ट के जरिए जो सो इंसाफ होगा, ना बल्कि बाबरी मस्जिद की तरह इसको भी शहीद किया जाएगा। पहले गवर्नमेंट को एश्योरेंस देना होगा, बाबरी मस्जिद में भी दिया गया था, इसलिए आज हम परेशान हैं। यहाँ पे कोई असदुद्दीन अवीसी की लड़ाई नहीं है, ना कोई योगी आदित्यनाथ की लड़ाई नहीं है। यहाँ पे एक मुल्क को फिर से एक नए बैटल के पास ढकला जा रहा है। सी वी डोंट हैव, ऑलरेडी वी आर फेसिंग लॉट ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स इन इंडिया। इकोनॉमी को ले लो, वी हैव मेनी थिंग्स हैव बीन हैपनिंग ओवर हियर। ये ट्रायल के लिए अनदर 30 years, मार्क माय वर्ड, ये 30 साल आगे फिर से एक बैटल के लिए वी आर गेटिंग रेडी। सी इफ देयर वाज अ पॉलिटिकल वेंडेटा, पॉलिटिकल प्रोपेगेंडा ओवर देयर इन दिस इश्यू, अर्लियर कभी कभी इश्यू नहीं हुआ, बट जब नमाज के लिए रोका गया, सुप्रीम कोर्ट डॉट इंटरवेन। एंड अनदर थिंग, द फाउंटेन विच हैज द सुप्रीम कोर्ट हैज सेड टू सिक्योर, ठीक है करिए, बट इन द कोर्ट इन द ऑर्डर ऑल्सो इट क्लियरली सेड कि मुस्लिम्स को उनके तरीके से पूरी नमाज पढ़ने की इजाजत है, देन दैट वजू खाना शुड बी यूज्ड। इट्स नॉट दैट, बट गवर्नमेंट हैज टू अगेन एंड अगेन, आई एम आस्किंग यू थ्रू योर चैनल कि
very
इसको,
scared that this will be Babri Masjid part 2.
मैडम देखिए आप लोग, this all happened ना, नाविका जी, नाविका जी, it's already happened. We have seen masjid has been demolished in front of our eyes.
Fountain which will hurt the sentiments of the other side. So it is one-way street where you should
Madam,
be
it was
protected,
fountain for past 400 years.
but the Hindus should not deserve or expect any protection in this country. Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, they've made it very clear. हमको डर लगता है, प्रोटेक्ट कर लो, लेकिन हम इसको फाउंटेन बुलाएंगे। We will not say that till the judgment is out, let's hold our horses and not refer to it as a fountain. They will call it a fountain. They will hurt the sentiments of the Hindus, but they should be protected. Sudhanshu Trivedi ji, respond to Mr. Sohail.
Madam, देखिए on
no, I'm hearing your fader. You've said what you had to. Sudhanshu.
Lawyers. सर ये थोड़ा इको हो रहा है, इसको ठीक करा दीजिएगा। टू लर्नेड लॉयर्स, विष्णु जैन एंड संतोष हेगड़े जी हैज गिवन देयर ओपिनियन ऑन प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट। आई वुड जस्ट लाइक टू पुट फोर्थ वन थिंग। कैन एनी ऑफ द लीगल luminary टेल मी दैट एनी act can be made retrospective effective? Okay, and retrospective of 44 years back. Third thing, they are saying that on 15th of August 1947 the religious places should be remain at it. Does government has number of religious places? Answer is no. Does government has of that day was having its status of the religious places 15th August? No. So it seems very illogical, non-substantive that you have made effective retrospective 44 years back without having any number, without having any status. So it is for now, it is being challenged in the court, so it is for the courts to decide that what they are going to give in that. Now coming to जो इन्होंने कहा हमारे जनाब, जब बाबरी मस्जिद की बात आई थी, आप जब वर्ड यूज करते हैं, कोर्ट हैज नेवर यूज दिस वर्ड बाबरी मस्जिद, दे सेड द डिस्प्यूटेड स्ट्रक्चर, because on 6 December 1992 for 43 years there was no namaz, केवल वहां पे श्री राम का विग्रह रख के पूजा हो रही थी, तो बुतखाना था आपके हिसाब से, मस्जिद क्यों कहते हैं उसको भाई? नाइदर कोर्ट हैज सेड, नाउ एज पर योर बिलीव तो 43 years देयर वाज नो मस्जिद। ओके, मुस्लिम्स के पास एक मौका आया था 49 में, उन्होंने ये 12 साल तक नहीं किया था। 61 दिसंबर दे बिकम द पार्टी, बिकॉज उनको लग रहा था कि हमें इस चीज में नहीं पढ़ना चाहिए, बट थैंक्स टू द सेक्युलरिस्ट ऑफ द नेरुवियन एरा, दे मोटिवेटेड। देन के मोहम्मद हैज गिवन अ डिस्क्रिप्शन इन हिज बुक, इन 80s Muslims were having an opinion that they do not want to become a party, but then the leftists have motivated, and then the leaders like Shahabuddin and Bukhari, now today the leaders like Owaisi. Now ek baar fir you are on the verge of history, sir. It's not for Muslim community that there is a temple on one side and mosque on the other side. I would like to say a serious and a larger thing. There is a choice for Muslim community that there is a legacy of Mughals on one side and there is a chance to shed away all the legacies and come up with an independent entity, nothing to do with foreign invaders on other side. आप मुगलिया मानसिकता की मृग मरीचिका में रहना चाहें, in the mirage of Mughaliya mindset, in which the water for which you are thinking will never be there. Or the other side, there is a historical opportunity. You can say, बाबर के नाम की मस्जिद से कोई मतलब नहीं था, औरंगजेब के नाम की मस्जिद से कोई मतलब नहीं था, अब एक नई शुरुआत करते हैं. But unfortunately, if you do not want to show this, then it will be like if in today's Germany anybody says that the touchstone of German and Jews harmony will be that if Germans say that we uphold Adolf Hitler's Holocaust, we uphold Adolf Eichmann's Holocaust, Hermann Göring, Rudolf Hess, they are our heroes, but still we want to have a Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb of German and Jews together. यही बात होगी कि बाबर, तुगलक, औरंगजेब को हमारा कहेंगे, हमारा, और उसके बाद कहेंगे ये गंगा जमनी तहजीब है. फाइनली, you know गंगा जमनी word came from where? औरंगजेब का बड़ा भाई दारा शिको, जिसने किताब लिखी मंजुमल बहरीन, इसका मीनिंग था मीटिंग ऑफ द टू ओशियंस, वो थी गंगा जमनी तहजीब. ही ट्रांसलेटेड उपनिषद इनटू पर्शियन एंड द नेम ऑफ द बुक वाज सिर्राए अकबर, मींस वर्ड ऑफ गॉड. और उसका तो सर काट के थाली में रख के जेल में बंद अपने बाप को दिया. द पर्सन हु हैज क्रश्ड द गंगा जमनी तहजीब. फॉरगेट अबाउट हिंदूज, अपने तीनों भाइयों को मारा, शुजा, मुराद और दारा, अपने बाप को जेल में बंद किया. क्या आपको लगता है कि आप अपने परिवार में भी ऐसे व्यक्ति के नाम के साथ एसोसिएट रहना चाहते हैं? इसलिए मैं कहता हूं, नाउ इट इज अ लार्जर क्वेश्चन फॉर मुस्लिम कम्युनिटी टू थिंक from their family to their country to their society to their identity.
Dr. Rehmani, would you want to respond? Because it's a time for the awakening and it's a time to also look at historical occurrences and the way they have occurred. And may I ask you, is it not written in various history texts from the time of Akbar and from the time of Aurangzeb, the fact that this itself was a structure that was a temple that was broken down? In fact, the Asiatic Library in Kolkata has a copy of the Farman of Aurangzeb. And I think Vishnu Jain has submitted that Farman as a document where it clearly says, the Farman of Aurangzeb says that the temple should be broken and a masjid should be made. So tonight, is it a question only of the courts? Or is it a question also of the test of really kitna bhaichara hai and how much of Ganga Jamni Tehzeeb exists between the two communities in India?
See, Navika, first of all, I don't want to claim it as a Hindu and Muslim disharmony. And this is not a Hindu and Muslim issue, and I want to take it, and I am taking it like a mandir and masjid issue, not more than that. So if it is a mandir issue, so
it's
many
not
Muslims
Hindu
can
Muslim,
favor
but
that
it is mandir masjid.
And so many Muslims can favor the mandir. It is a mandir masjid issue, yes. If you are talking about the communal harmony and the societies to live in integration, then it must not be a Hindu-Muslim issue. It must be a mandir masjid issue, not more. Secondly, what our learned friend Sudhanshu Trivedi is saying, I remember on 9th November 2019 what the Prime Minister of India said. He said, now let's forget the past and go along for the national building. And I want to remind you what the RSS chief that day said. He said that for some historical compulsions we have joined this Andolan, and no, in future we will not join any such movement. And we will do the human building, human welfare work. And what they are doing after 2.5 years, everybody knows. Secondly, we are not aligning with anybody in the past. We want to live in 2022. We don't want to live 100 years back. And the court, the Honorable Supreme Court today I'm satisfied and I am happy. There is no point of disappointment when they have referred this case to the lower judiciary and changed the judge whose integrity was questioned by so many faculties in the country. And they have changed it. So if the inquiry is a part of inquiry is concerned, Vishnu Jain, whatever Vishnu Jain said, fine, it's good. You go for inquiry, but it will be a record maintaining activity, what I say. As far as the 1991 Act is concerned, I want to say it very openly to Mr. Sudhanshu Trivedi. He belonged to the BJP, the ruling party. The case is, the Act is challenged in the Supreme Court of India, and they have sent a notice to you. You did not reply till date. You have to clear your position as a ruling party, whether you want this Act to stay or you want to repeal it. You have to make a decision, and I want to say it further, that the future of India and the future of the society, the society of various sects and various beliefs depend on the fate of this 1991 Act.
Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, Mr. Rehmani has made several points, but is there a possibility of considering a Hindu-Muslim issue, separate from a Mandir Masjid issue? Do you think this is separable?
Yes. I said it.
Now, I think if somebody is trying to do this, as Mr. Rehmani is trying, I would like to respond. He has said that we have to make our position clear. We have to make our position clear, sir. When this act was passed, BJP's position was categorically clear that we were against tooth and nail on this. But by that time, the government has passed. At this time, it is sub judice in the court. So till the court decides the legislative process should not start, there should be not. Politically, our stand was against. Now I am coming to that. Sir, 1 minute. The basic fundamental question, sir, let me complete. A basic fundamental question, it is Places of Worship Act. I want to ask, is there any tradition of worship in Islam, or it is only prayer? Because in Hindi translation, it is upasana. Upasana is from two Sanskrit word. Up means near, asan means to sit. You can sit near to any object or person. It has to be in real terms. और आपके यहाँ तो अल्लाह निराकार माने गए, तो निराकार की सिर्फ प्रार्थना होती है, उपासना नहीं हो सकती. तो I want to very clear. There is a worship, there is a no concept of worship. इसीलिए आपके यहाँ तमाम ऐसे फतवे होते हैं जो मजारों के लिए कहते हैं कि मजार कुफ्र है, क्योंकि वहाँ worship होती है. तो मजार can be the place of worship, but the mosque is the place of prayer. One thing. Second thing, not the word, sir. Not prayer. And one, मेरे भाई, रहमानी साहब पूरी बात कर लूं. रहमानी साहब पूरी बात कर लूं. रहमानी साहब पूरी बात कर लूं. Let me complete my submission.
Let me
Rehmani Saab, let him complete, you can rebut. After he completes, you can rebut. 1 minute, Rehmani Saab, after he completes, you can rebut. You made 4 big points. He's responding to the 4 points. If you want to rebut him, right after he finishes speaking, you can. Yes, Sudhanshu.
अब मैं बता रहा हूं वर्शिप क्या होती है. हाँ, in Hindu scriptures, there is a clear categorical reference of Kashi. 7 मोक्षदायिनी नगरियों में है अयोध्या, मथुरा, माया, काशी, कांची, अवंतिका, पुरी, द्वारावती चैव सप्तैता मोक्षदायका. And there is a clear reference of Gyan and Vapi. In Puran it is said, Devasya dakshinam bhage, Vapi tishtati shobhanam, tasyodakam pitva punarjanmam na vidyate. It means on the southern side of the Dev, Vapi is there. And by drinking that water, you can get out of the circle of the Janma and Janmantar. But unfortunately, you do not believe in Janmantar, but very interested in taking that water. So I want an answer. Sir, please give me any Muslim reference in which the word Kashi is there, in which the word Gyan is there, in which the word Vapi is there. Kindly enlighten me on this.
Rehmani ji.
First of all, I want to correct, if I may, that the word worship, in Urdu it is ibadat. Ibadat can be of any form. And in Hindi, as far as my knowledge of Hindi is concerned, it may be very little, but it's puja, not the upasana. So if it is puja may be of various kinds, and you know it even in the Hindu religion. Sir, there are so many ways of the puja is there. In the same way in Islam and in any other religion.
The translation, Hindi translation is upasana is there.
I don't know. At some other point, even the Hindu Pandits say that this is the puja, not upasana. The meaning, the translation of worship is puja, not upasana in Hindi. There is so many Hindu Pandits, and I'm going by that. That's why I said it's not just the upasana is a way of puja. Upasana of the way of puja It is covered under the bigger ambit of puja. Upasana is one of the way, one of the paddhati.
Well, let's not get derailed by the usage of the word. The fact is that you use the 1991 Act to pray to the Supreme Court that this cannot be done, and that was rejected. Vishnu Jain ji, I want to ask you, the entire process of trying to determine what exists there in the Gyanvapi area is what this whole thing is all about. And the Supreme Court has not stopped, not stayed the process of finding out कि ये था क्या वहां पर, वहां structure क्या था, place of worship क्या था. I want to ask you, Vishnu Jain, two things. The fact is that there are historical references and there are facts that this entire mandir area was destroyed thrice. The last time by Aurangzeb in 1669. I want to ask you, the Farman. 1 minute, Dr. Rehmani. Why don't you be the sole speaker in this debate? Then nobody else needs to speak. You can have the floor and speak for half an hour.
One more very important sentence.
No, then you should have said it in the beginning, because right now I'm asking Vishnu Jain a question. Vishnu Jain, there is so much material, and the Farman of Aurangzeb, forget anybody else, Aurangzeb, which you have presented. Would you have a copy of that Farman, and what does that Farman say?
See, that Farman is of 18th April 1669, and it is quoted in the book History of India. Sir,
I am not claiming that the mandir was not demolished.
1 minute. Please lower Rehmani.
See, that Farman,
yes.
That Farman of 18th April 1669, which is quoted in the book History of India written by Mr. Dawson. What does it say? That जाओ जाके जो ब्राह्मण वहां पे पूजा पाठ करा रहे हैं उसको रोक दो और इनकी मंदिर को तोड़ दो, और 18 अप्रैल 1669 को बादशाह सलामत को रिपोर्ट किया गया कि काशी की मंदिर को तोड़ दिया गया है. अब द पॉइंट इज, मैं यहाँ पे सारे पैनलिस्ट से पूछना चाहता हूँ और बहुत ही संजीदगी से पूछना चाहता हूँ कि क्या प्लीज आप मुझे बताइए कि क्या आप आज ये ऑन एयर कह सकते हैं कि मंदिर तोड़ के मस्जिद बनाया जा सकता है? अभी मैं अपने मेरे एक भाई को सुन रहा था, आई वाज हियरिंग वन ऑफ माय ब्रदर्स, ही वाज सेइंग कि मेरी बाबरी मस्जिद को शहीद कर दिया कि हम दूसरी नहीं खोना चाहते. नाविका जी, आज कोर्ट में क्या हुआ पता है? मैं बोल ही देता हूं पे. इनके वकील साहब ने क्या आर्गुमेंट किया कि जो एरिया सील किया गया हमें वहीं पे वसूल करने दिया जाए. मतलब जिद है कि अगर एक पक्ष कह रहे हैं शिवलिंग है तो सुनना नहीं है. आपको सिर्फ ये कहना है कि हम वहीं वजू करें, और वही सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा कि नहीं, ये चीज नहीं हो सकती है. जो हमारा ऑर्डर है 17 अप्रैल का, वो सैक्रोसेंट है और वो बरकरार रहेगा. आपने मेरे पे एलिगेशंस लगाए थे कि विष्णु शंकर जैन ने एक्स पार्टी इंटरिम ऑर्डर ले लिया 16 मई को, पर सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने 17 मई को वही ऑर्डर बरकरार रखा और वो आज भी बरकरार रखा.
रिस्पॉन्ड आतिक उर रहमान.
चाहते हो एश्योरेंस बाबरी मस्जिद के लिए?
Respond, Mr.
Navika ji, may I?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Navika ji, a number of times Mr. Vishnu Jain has raised this point that whether the Muslims can offer prayers on such a land which is not, belonging to them. I can cross-question him. Can the Hindus pray in those temples which Aurangzeb or any other Muslim leaders, the Muslim rulers have granted several amount of money to it? Several grants and lands were granted in the 50-year-long rule of Aurangzeb. Several mosques were granted, the mandirs were granted, money, land and several other things. This is on record, and even there are records of breaking the temples by Muslim rulers, also the Hindu rulers. May I complete, sir? May I complete, sir? May I complete, sir? May I complete, sir?
Make your point.
Thank you. So we do have a checkered history. Sudhanshu ji knows it. Again and again, if you are fingering one particular community, that they are owning the legacy of the Muslim rule or Aurangzeb, it is quite incorrect. Can you return all the money and all the land?
What do you mean by fingering one particular community?
To those
Atiq Ur Rehman, when you and your side
they are doing it, Navika ji, you won't accept it.
कि जो जगह मिली है, जो
allow me to complete. I have several other things which can expose you people.
Only you like to get exposed. You are not fingering others, Sudhanshu Trivedi.
Would you like to get exposed or not?
What line is this that there is only one community that is being
Would you like to get exposed more or not? You don't want to get exposed?
We are not
Okay,
posing
then
any
you are
threat to
hiding
any
several
community.
things.
The community.
You are hiding several things, Sudhanshu ji.
भाई आपने
Nirankari, Raja Ram Mohan Roy. The concept of Nirankari came from Rabindranath Tagore. The concept of Nirankari came from Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan. This is Hinduism, not your Hindutva.
You know, I don't know. Please quote history that
Nirankari. Who is a Nirankari? Hindutva is not a Nirankari. Hinduism is
You have
Nirankari.
raised an issue that only one community has been fingered in this country. I want Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi to respond to that statement made by you. Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi.
Rehmani sahab.
वी नेवर कनेक्ट नहीं मैं बताता हूं अरे भाई यहां दो भाई हैं एक है दारा शिको एक है औरंगजेब वी आर नॉट पॉइंटिंग आउट इट इज द कम्युनिटी विच इज डिनाउंसिंग दारा शिको एंड ओनिंग औरंगजेब इसीलिए मैं कहता हूं औरंगजेब के नाम की सड़क हटाई गई तो कौन जाके छाती पीटा था औरंगजेब के 300 साल पूरे हुए 2007 में जलसा बनाया ये बताइए जब दारा शिको की शहादत हुई है सितंबर 1659 कोई मनाता है उनके 300 साल अब देखिए प्लीज डू नॉट डिस्टर्ब सर प्लीज डू नॉट डिस्टर्ब लेट मी कंप्लीट माय सबमिशन अच्छा यू हैव टॉक्ड अबाउट द मंदिर ग्रांट गिवन बाय औरंगजेब टू द मंदिर अरे सर मैं आपकी बात
उसने मंदिर
भाई लेट मी कंप्लीट अरे भाई अब
Atiq Ur Rehman, you were a peaceful man to debate with, but suddenly you decided that you must interfere and interrupt everybody. Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, complete your point.
हाँ इन्होंने जो बोला मैं और ऐड कर देता हूं अरे औरंगजेब ने राम का नाम भी लिखा है कब जब शिवाजी को उसने बुलाया मिर्जा राजा जयसिंह के थ्रू चिट्ठी भेजी तो लास्ट में लिखा आइयो जरूर आलमगीर का राम राम बाचियो इट डजंट मीन ही हैज अ फेथ इन राम यह तो छल था कि शिवाजी को इमोशनल ब्लैकमेल करने का कि राम का नाम लिखो ताकि वो आ जाएं एंड नाउ आई कोट छत्रपति शिवाजी के जमाने की लिखी हुई शिवाजी बावनी का सेंटेंस कोट करता हूं उसमें लिखा हुआ है कुंभकर्ण असुर अवतारी औरंगजेब काशी और प्रयाग में दुहाई फेरी रब की और तोड़े देव देवालय शहर मोहल्ले के रे लाखों मुसलमान किए माला तोड़ी सब की और आगे लिखा काशी करबला होती मथुरा मदीना होती शिवाजी ना होते तो सुन्नत होती सबकी यह शिवाजी के समय का डॉक्यूमेंट है अब जाइए महाराष्ट्र में जिनके साथ सरकार चला रहे हिम्मत हो तो चैलेंज करिए इसमें कोई इफेन बट है क्या डॉक्यूमेंटेड हिस्ट्री में लिखा हुआ है सारी चीजें इतना ज्यादा अत्याचार हुआ था सर यू आर ओनिंग द लीगेसी अरे आज आपको दारा शिको की जयंती मनानी चाहिए थी आपका कहना चाहिए था हेल विद औरंगजेब वी वांट द गंगा जमनी तहजीब व्हिच वाज इनिशिएटेड बाय दारा शिको इन मंजुमल बहरीन बट अफसोस कि आपको ना खुसरो ना रहीम अब्दुल रहीम खान खाना ना सैयद मोहम्मद इब्राहिम रसखान वहां से लेकर डॉक्टर कलाम तक नहीं नजर आते आपको बाबर तुगलक औरंगजेब इशरत जहां याकूब में नजर आते लीगेसी यू चूज नॉट वी इम्पोज
Well, I want to get in Rahul Eashwar. Rahul Eashwar, you know, this is a community that has been fingered. That is the statement made. And on the other side, Dr. T.A Rehmani comes out and says that let's not make this Hindu-Muslim. Let's just restrict it to masjid and mandir. Can you separate the two? Can you separate Hindus from their mandirs and Muslims from their masjids?
Yeah, Navika ji, one humble submission. I am totally with my Muslim brother who said he was pained when one mosque or Babri Masjid was destroyed. Then imagine the pain of hundreds of temples being razed and for centuries by our Hindu community. Please remember, I am with their pain when they say when their holy structure or when one particular structure was brought down, we respect it. But what about the pain for centuries for crores of Hindus when hundreds of temples were destroyed? So here is the position. See, there are some realities of history we should remember, we should have truth and reconciliation. We should talk to each other. We should find a consensus. I am a Gandhian and I am a proud pluralist. But at the same point of time, I would request our Muslim brothers not to go for confrontation in court, but rather some kind of a reconciliation. We all know that Kashi, Mathura and Ayodhya are especially sacred for Hindus because it is Janma Bhumi's birthplace. They cannot be taken away. They have their own unique sanctity that should be respected. So why don't Muslim seniors and Hindu seniors sit together and find out a way? Let us talk it out. Let us talk to each other. Why go for confrontation? And we have a great legacy of people like K.K. Muhammad, who is a proud Indian Muslim, but he pointed out that there were temples destroyed and there were pains of the past. So let us address the wounds of the past in a very centrist way, Gandhian way. Honorable Supreme Court also
Sanjay Hegde, you are a jurist, you are a man of the law. But you're also a man that follows the Indian culture, Indian history and religion, follower of religion as well. I just want to ask you, when we are talking about how do we choose our legacy, should the legacy of Aurangzeb and Babur and Tughlaq prevail over the legacy of other people like Dara Sekho or Akbar? Number one. And number two, the question I want to ask you, when the Muslim side says in court कि हमें वुजू तो वही करना है, and with the structure that is called the fountain, even though now that the Supreme Court has said that whatever form it is, it needs to be protected, doesn't it show that the community that says that they have been fingered actually has no respect for the sensitivities of the other side as well?
Well, before we proceed further, there was one thing that Mr. Sudhanshu Trivedi said, that Ayodhya was described as a disputed structure. Reading from the Supreme Court judgment, the 5 judges said, during the pendency of the suits, the entire structure of the mosque was brought down in a calculated act of destroying a place of public worship. The Muslims have been wrongly deprived of a mosque which has been constructed well over 450 years ago. He also quoted something from Shivaji's time, which seemed to me to be in modern Hindi or Braj Bhasha. I don't think Shivaji spoke either of those languages. So it is very easy to keep on giving half truths. No, please. I didn't interrupt you, sir. Please do not. It is very easy to pass off WhatsApp information. It's very easy to pass off WhatsApp information. But as a man of law, and as somebody who has observed history.
Sir, I challenge you. You are talking about WhatsApp information. I challenge you. It is written during the Shivaji's time.
If it was written in Shivaji's time, it would have been written in Marathi, it would have been written in Persian, it would not have been written in... No, please. It would not have been written in modern Hindi. It would not have been written in modern Hindi, please. Okay. Now, Navika, you have to let me speak. You have to let me speak. You have to let me speak. You have to let me speak.
You are challenging
the second part of it.
You are
The second part of it, Navika,
his facts and he is challenging yours. How can I allow you to carry on without the rebuttal?
No. So let me complete.
Empirical assumption that it is to be written in Marathi.
So
He should speak during his time, na?
yes.
All right.
Let me
Complete your
complete
point,
it.
Sanjay.
As far as legacy is concerned, I think modern India should be more concerned with its future than its legacy. I, as a practicing Hindu, we would say that yes, Aurangzeb or somebody like that destroyed the mosque, destroyed the temple, built a mosque. I also take pride in the fact that thereafter Ahilyabai Holkar restored the temple and preserved the mosque. So our history is both ways. We can read history just to understand what mistakes not to repeat. But we cannot make history our obsession to say that which happened 400 years ago, we are going to rewrite or we are going to create the same mistake. Let us write a fresh history. As they said, छोड़ो कल की बातें, कल की बात पुरानी. नए जोश से लिखेंगे, मिलकर नई कहानी।
तो ये एक ही साइड को क्यों कहा जाएगा? डॉक्टर सुधांशु त्रिवेदी, छोड़ो कल की बातें शुड अप्लाई ओनली टू वन साइड?
नहीं, look at the sentence of Mr. Sanjay Hegde. He had said Aurangzeb destroyed temple and I am also having pride that Ahilyabai made it. Both histories are ours. Sir, what you are saying? A foreign invader has destroyed the temple and that history is still yours. And with due humility, I have no personal no allegation on you. With due respect to you, sir, it is written in Avadhi language, and that's why जो जानता राजा जब नाटक है जो दिखाया जाता है शिवाजी के बारे में, उसमें जो अंत में पढ़ा जाता है ना, इंद्रजिमी जम्ब पर बाड़ा सुवम पर रावण सदम पर, वो भी हिंदी में है. Sir, you do not know those things, so that's why I am saying, sir, you are in the confined in the Lutyens history. अरे भाई आप सुनिए, गुरु ग्रंथ साहब का आखिरी दोहा अवधि हिंदी में लिखा हुआ है, राम नाम सिमरन करो जाके सम नहीं कोई, सिमरत ही संकट मिटे दरस दिखावे सो. अब आप कहेंगे गुरुमुखी में लिखा होना चाहिए. सर, दैट्स फॉर द कंपोजिट हिस्ट्री. अनफॉर्चुनेटली यू पीपल हैव ट्राइड टू डिस्टॉर्ट एंड मेक ए सेगमेंटेशन, रेजिमेंटेशन ऑफ द लैंग्वेज. नाउ कमिंग ऑन द टुडेज एस्पेक्ट, आई जस्ट वांट टू से, सर, इट इज करेक्ट that the historical wrong should not sustain. That's what I'm saying. For Muslim community, shed up the Mughal legacy and say we do not want to sustain and stand with those historical wrong. We want to do away with it, like today's Germans do not stand with the Holocaust. And that's why there is a harmony with the Germans and the Jews. But unfortunately, if you want to sustain and own the legacy of the Holocaust of Hindus, which I am not quoting, Mr. R.G. Ramal is a documented history of 2,500 years has said before 13th century there was no massacre in India. He has documented that 1.4 billion people have been killed in 2,500 years.
Let me get in, Mr. Vinod Bansal. One minute, gentlemen. Mr. Vinod Bansal. Bansal जी, माफ कीजिएगा, लेट आ रही हूँ आपके पास, लेकिन अब ये पूछना चाहती हूँ कि जो कह रहे हैं छोड़ो कल की बातें, कल की बात पुरानी, वो क्या सिर्फ एक साइड को अप्लाई करेंगी या सबको छोड़नी पड़ेंगी कल की बातें? और फिर जब जन्मभूमियों का सवाल आता है और प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट जिसका हवाला दिया जाता है, अगर सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने आज कहा है कि वो पता करने के लिए कि ये क्या था, किस तरह का स्ट्रक्चर था और यहाँ क्या हुआ करता था, उसमें कोई रुकावट नहीं है 1991 एक्ट में, तो क्या अब ज्ञानवापी के बाद अगली जो मॉन्यूमेंट है वो मथुरा की होगी?
देखिए नाविका जी, धन्यवाद देता हूँ, चाहे डिबेट के एंड में ही सही, कम से कम आप आए और आई रियली एंजॉय योर डिबेट्स. Today's debate is very historical in wider perspective. I may not have been entered into the debate, but I really enjoy the debate. And मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा आपके व्यूअर्स इसके एक एक जो शॉर्ट्स हैं उनको लेकर के सोशल मीडिया पर जरूर लेके जाएंगे, बिकॉज इट इज़ अ वेरी लर्नड डिबेट, आई कैन से. बट द क्वेश्चन इज दैट कि देखिए, जब तक अतीक उर रहमान जी एंटर नहीं हुए थे इस डिबेट में, तब तक टोटली इंटेलेक्चुअल डिबेट चल रही थी. इट वॉज ए टोटल वेरी लीगल एंड दिस कंस्ट्रक्टिव डिबेट. द क्वेश्चन इज दैट कि एक तरफ तो वो सोच है जो कि न्यायालय के सम्मान की बात करती है, संविधान की बात करती है, और उसी संविधान को दता बता के न्यायाधीशों के ऊपर क्वेश्चन रेज करती है और माननीय सर्वोच्च न्यायालय का भी टाइम खराब करती है. बार बार सर्वोच्च न्यायालय ने कहा कि तुम नीचे जाओ नीचे जाओ नीचे जाओ, उसके बाद भी नीचे वालों को पत्थर फेंकना इनकी आदत है. तीसरी बात ये, देखिए हिंदू समाज ने, चाहे कोर्ट ने कहा कि उस ज्ञानवापी मॉस्क में आप इस एरिया में नहीं जा सकते, 20 लोगों से ज्यादा नहीं जा सकते, लेकिन इसके बावजूद भी 700 लोगों को अलाउ किया. देखिए मैं बीच में नहीं बोला था, ये जरा इसको इनका वॉल्यूम डाउन करिए, इनका वॉल्यूम डाउन करिए प्लीज. नाविका जी मैं ऐसे नहीं बोल पाऊंगा. देखिए मैं कह रहा हूं कि देखिए नाविका जी, अगर ऐसे मेरे को, देखिए मेरे साथ अन्याय हो रहा है. आज
नहीं हो रहा, मैंने उनका फेडर डाउन किया, आप लास्ट में बोल रहे हैं इसीलिए फेडर डाउन कर दिया अतीक उर रहमान साहब का.
करेक्ट, थैंक यू. मैं कह रहा हूं, देखिए बड़े बड़े विनम्रतापूर्वक कह रहा हूं कि एक तरफ जो है ना 20 लोगों को अलाउ किया, उसके बावजूद भी 700 लोग मस्जिद में पहुंचे, 700 से ज्यादा, लेकिन किसी हिंदू ने ऑब्जेक्शन किया क्या? नहीं. लेकिन दूसरी साइड में जब मेरी आस्था का केंद्र वहां पर मौजूद है और संपूर्ण विश्व उसके लिए आह्लादित है, और वहीं पर आप थूकना चाहते हो, वहीं पर आप कुल्ला करना चाहते हो, वहीं पर आप हाथ मुंह धोना चाहते हो, ये है इनकी गंगा जमुनी, ये है इनका भाईचारा, ये इनकी दुष्टता मैं कहूंगा इसका, ये है इनकी सोच। और ये बात जो अब तक डिबेट में जो आ गई है कि ये किसके साथ खड़े हैं किसके साथ नहीं है, बात कम्युनिटी की करते हैं और कम्युनिटी में पिक एंड चूज करते हैं। जो कट्टरपंथी हैं उनके साथ इस्लाम को कनेक्ट करना चाहते हैं। भारत के युवा मुसलमानों को ये कट्टरपंथी और अलगाववादी बनाना चाहते हैं। आप देखिए, मुझे बताइए, जैसे कि इन्होंने कहा कि भाई इस मामले का कोई हिंदू मुसलमान से लेना देना नहीं है, मैं भी मानता हूं इस बात का। मंदिर मस्जिद से भी लेना देना नहीं है, ये बात इन्होंने कही कि मंदिर मस्जिद से लेना देना, मैं कहता हूं ये भी नहीं है। इसमें मंदिर मस्जिद का भी कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है। यहाँ क्वेश्चन है इन्वेडर का और इंडियन का, यहाँ क्वेश्चन है भारतीयता का और अभारतीयता का, ये यहाँ क्वेश्चन है दास्ता का और स्वाभिमान का। ये प्रश्न है, ये प्रश्न है वास्तव में धर्म का और अधर्म का। लेकिन इसके बावजूद भी ये लोग खड़े होंगे वहीं उनके साथ में। आप देखिए आखिरकार हिंदू समाज को कब तक दबाया जाएगा? इस देश का तथाकथित बहुसंख्यक समुदाय को दबाता रहेगा और हमारी आस्था कोई आस्था नहीं है, आपकी आस्था है।
बिल्कुल। सुधांशु जी, 30 seconds टू यू।
देखिए, जो कुछ किया जा रहा है, मैं बाबा विश्वनाथ जी के ही कैरेक्टर से प्रेरणा लेकर कहता हूं, जिन्होंने विष पान कर जगत का कल्याण किया। एक पंक्ति कह के समाप्त करता हूं कि मैं मधु से अनभिज्ञ आज भी जीवन भर विषपान किया है, किया नहीं विध्वंस विश्व का आजीवन निर्माण किया है। परंतु यदि अन्याय होगा तो याद रखिएगा, प्रलयंकर हूं महाकाल बन पापों का अवसान किया है, किया नहीं विध्वंस विश्व का आजीवन निर्माण
शुरू हुआ है। अन्याय तो 8 साल से आपने शुरू किया है। आप हिस्ट्री को रिपीट करने के नाम पर आप कह रहे हैं न्याय व्यवस्था आ रही है।
Well, the debate is on. This is not going to be settled very early. In fact, the matter has gone to the courts, from lower courts to the Supreme Court, back to lower courts. In the meanwhile, can the society, can both sides find a solution amicably? Any possibility of that? Is this possible in New India? That's the question we are asking. Thank you very much to all my panelists for joining me on this debate. Big news on the other side.